Hey guys, welcome to the first episode of Flying with Brian. I'm restoring a 1946 Taylorcraft BC-12D, and I thought this would be a fun way to maybe document some of the work I'm doing, and also talk about some other aviation interests. I live in a small residential air park in Mississippi, and fortunate enough to have my hangar in my backyard, so we're going to take a walk around the hangar and see what's going on in here. Yeah, so welcome inside. This is my 1957 Farmall Cub, which belonged to my grandfather. I restored it, about 15 years ago now, and cut my grass with it still. But this is the airplane we've talking about. This is the 1946 Taylorcraft. As you can see, it's in the middle of a pretty big restoration. Excuse the camera work, but I've had it for a couple of years now. I bought it from one of my neighbors here. It belonged to his father, and his father passed away, and it hadn't been flown very much before that. So the price was good, and I was looking for a project, so I took it on. It originally had a 65 horse Continental. This is a C85 that I've done what we jokingly refer to as a Krylon overhaul here in Mississippi. But I've basically cleaned it up and repainted it, but I haven't done a lot of work to the engine. It's sat for a good while, so I'm hoping we don't have any issues, but we're going to keep an eye on it for sure. I've added, you can see these are a new ignition harness. We've got new, I say new, they're rebuilt by Kelly magnetos, and a new B&C starter. That's one of the benefits of having this motor. This is it's a C85-12, which allows you to add a starter and an alternator to this aircraft. Which I'm just going to do the starter and the battery, no alternator, just to avoid some the ADS-B requirements and other stuff. But this is the starter here, right on the top, and you can see it's a pretty close fit, but it does fit. Let me show you what I've really been working on the last couple years, on and off. This is the left wing. It was completely disassembled. I mean completely, every little part. I've built new spars from spruce using the old spars as patterns. All the ribs they come in three parts. There's a part here, you can't see it, but it's underneath this leading edge skin, and there's a middle part of the rib, and then there's a trailing edge part of the rib, and it rivets together. There's two rivets here and two rivets here, and then again on the bottom. But they were all some in bad shape, a couple of them bent, some of them were just rusty and nasty, and bird stuff on them, or not bird stuff, but maybe even mice waste. So replaced a few, repaired a few, but cleaned them all up. They were epoxy primed, put back together, and we got a brand new leading edge skin here. And this wing is ready to cover. You see a lot of tape on it. This is called anti-chafe tape. Those are over screw heads and other sharp edges to prevent the fabric from snagging on any sharp edges or maybe getting a rip or a tear. And then that lacing you see down the middle is called inner rib bracing. And all that does is really, as the fabric shrinks on the ribs, when the fabric is applied, it's shrunk with an iron, and it can pull the ribs a little bit out of alignment, and this helps just keep those in alignment. So that's the left wing. Here's the right wing. It's been completed for a good while now, a little over a year. You can see I'm not a real fast worker, but this is a bit of a hobby and just something I enjoy doing in my spare time. But it is also basically ready for cover. I need to do a couple little odds and ends, but just about ready to go. Like we see, this one has a brand new fuel tank. The other one also has a fuel tank right there. That's a 6-gallon tank in each wing, and then the fuselage has a 12-gallon tank, so we got 24 gallons total. And it really only burns about 4.5, 5 gallons an hour, so that should last a good while. what I'm working on today is putting fabric on this aileron. The other aileron is right there. It is still covered with the original fabric. That'll come off and get cleaned up and ready for fabric as well. But I wanted to start on something small with the fabric before I jump onto the wing, just to kind of get my skills back up to par. I've done one other aircraft, but it's been about 10 years ago, so just reviewing some stuff and getting good at it again. I'm using a process called the AirTech process, and it's made by a small company over in Arkansas, really close to where I grew up. And I wanted to support the local guys. I've used it before and had good success with it. Yeah, check them out. They're called AirTech coatings. It's similar to polyfiber, similar to Superflight, but it's a good process. It makes a nice shiny urethane paint finish, so it looks really good when it's done. So I'm in the middle of doing the bottom side. Now you can see I've already put fabric on the top, and I've done one shrink on it just so I can see if I can show you. Done one shrink here because we have an overlap. If you can see, this bottom fabric comes up around the trailing edge, and we have an overlap onto this surface here, and then around the leading edge it will also overlap right here. And so this will be glued down along the overlap, and then there will be what's called a finishing tape that will go over the top of that after it's all shrunk down and finished. And there will also be what's called rib stitching. Will go over these over each rib you see in this aileron. There'll be about three stitches per rib, and that keeps the fabric from separating from the airfoil during flight. The wing itself, let's see if you can show it. Taylorcraft, instead of using stitching on the wing, it has these holes that a wire clip runs along each rib, and that clip clips the fabric down, so there's no need to rib stitch on the wings. And I was fortunate enough to find some original equipment, rib wire, to be able to do that again with. So that's just a good first episode. I've also, you can probably see the background, I have a 1961 N35 Bonanza. This is a 260 horsepower Continental IO 470 that powers it. Had this airplane for about 10 years. This is my main traveling airplane. Not that I travel exclusive that much in it, but I go to Oshkosh and Sun and Fun. I've been to the Bahamas in it, just pleasure flying, that sort of thing. And maybe we'll have another episode that talks about the V-tail here, which is an iconic airplane in its own right for sure. But yeah, thanks for tuning in, and hopefully next update we'll be getting some fabric on this wing, and I'd like to track that progress for you. Until next time, this is Flying with Brian.